am, you're able to, if you do like sway or you do, get distracted, you're able to kind of reset, realign yourself because it's written down.
Yes.
But it also allows you that flexibility because things are going to come up.
Right.
Life happens.
Yes.
And being the sole parent.
Okay.
Now, the responsibility
is on
you.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the things that your children are involved in or doing or happenings that may happen with family members.
Right.
Might take up that time.
Yes.
And interfere.
Yeah.
But you and I also talked about beginning and assessing where we are as living without our spouses.
Right.
That was one of those aha moments for me when you said that.
Okay.
As we were preparing for this show.
That I've learned how to live without my spouse, where you are learning
how to live without my spouse
yeah.
after a year and a half.
Yeah.
And so can you elaborate
I think there's a difference
about that for you, like how, because many people are listening, they're at the various stages between the two of us,
okay,
whether it's a recent loss or it's been some years.
Okay.
The years really don't dictate.
No, it doesn't.
Where you are in that spectrum of have learned to live without them or learning to live without them. It's 10 years for some people. They're still learning to live without them. How did you get to that?
Mindset and prayer. Mindset and prayer. I had to just acknowledge the fact that my spouse is not here. We know that they're not here, but you have to acknowledge the fact in your mind, and they go back to that mental part, and say, okay, he's not here. Now what do you do? Or how do you go forward? Or what is your life like now? So when I was learning how to live without my spouse, it was learning how to do this, learning how to do that, learning he's not here to do this, so now you got to do that. You know what I'm saying? Those type of things. And the mental part where you're so used to having someone to talk to and talk about these things. And what do you think about this? Now I know, okay, well, you don't have to say, well, okay, you don't have nobody to talk about that because you know you don't. So that's the difference for me. Now that I know, okay, you don't have that spouse here to bounce things off of, or that spouse here to go do this. And when it comes to my daughter, or now I know, okay, it's just you. So you know what you got to do. So once my mindset changed through prayer, I had to say through prayer because it took a moment. It took really some years. But once I got there, now I know, okay, this got to be accomplished. This got to get done. You have to do it, or you have to come up with a way to do it, because you don't have that other person to say, okay, baby, this needs to be done, or baby, you got this. And so now that I know that, I've learned how to live without my spouse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Did it take something that pushed you to that? Did it take something? Did you just wake up one morning and it was there? It was there.
To be honest, I had been going through a lot of just with him not here. And when I had been, like I say, I had been praying and praying, God, you got to get me to a point where I can move forward. And I woke up, and I had to say Bishop T.D. Jakes. It was him. The word that he had put forward was, you can go on. And I was like, wow, I can go on. And it was like a light bulb just came on, and my mindset just changed. It just shifted. And ever since then, I've just been moving on. So for me, that's how it worked for me. Because like I say, before I was just learning. Okay, how I'm gonna do this? Okay, he can't do this because he not here, Right. But now I know, okay, well, he not here. Okay, so you got to do what you got to do. Right. You got to make it happen. Those type of things. And like you say, we was talking about one time being in the bed alone, where you used to having that partner. So now, every now and then, it still happens that I look over and say, oh, my bed is empty, versus all crying and trying to figure out, okay, Lord, woe is me. I don't do that. Now it's just like, okay, he's not there. Now let's go on. So, yeah.
So it doesn't mean that you stop crying.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't mean that you don't have those sad moments.
No.
Those moments of reflection.
No.
Right.
Yeah, you still have those. I don't know. For me, there are, remember I was talking to you about, and I was saying I have trigger points. Yeah. So for me, there are times where I'm good. I can have a trigger and it doesn't break me down where I'm crying, or I have a trigger and it breaks me down when I'm crying. I think it just depends on where my mindset is at that moment, But I do still cry. Yes, I do. But not to me. I don't think, not as much. But yeah, I do have my moments.
So with this being a new year, do you feel like there is an awakening for you to, as you say, live without your spouse, live differently this year than you've lived last year?
I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, because I've been having to learn to live different without my spouse for 5 years.
So what are those goals? What are those accomplishments, goals, like, that you're like, I'm hitting the ground running with this?
Well, one of them, back to what I was saying, eating healthier, those things that I want to get accomplished. Something simple as learning my cricket, taking and doing events, those things, and my home care business that I have, that as well. I want to be certified. I want to be certified where the children can be going into kindergarten, so that my school will be recognized as accredited. So
as a preschool.
Yes. So yeah, those type of things.
You do a wonderful job.
Well, thank you.
Those children are reading and doing math at 3, 4, going into kindergarten already. Yeah. Reading Sally, Jack, and Mike, or Dave, whatever that book is called. That's awesome. Do you look forward to, or have you considered expanding your business?
Considering expanding, but really with this pandemic, I've kind of just set back a little bit on it, because.
So are we talking about like opening up a full-fledged daycare center?
Yeah. I was looking for an actual building and all that. I was talking to Erica, your daughter. But yes, I was looking for a building to open up and do all of that. But now, with this pandemic, I am so picky. Right. So, I don't be wanting everybody and anybody. So, I think maybe once this pandemic hopefully, prayerfully, that it will get a little slower, then maybe I will reconsider. Okay.
And is that something that you think your spouse wanted for you?
He did.
I ask those questions because I kind of know some of the answers,
right?
But since we're opening up to other people, and we're really trying to
you about to make me cry,
encourage and inspire other women and widows and widowers, or those who have lost loved ones and friends. This podcast really is a discussion between you and I, and we know one another.
Right.
We know a lot about each other, but not the intricate parts. So we kind of share that across this table,
right,
as we talk about the various topics and grow together. But it's also to help other women, other people who have gone through a loss, understand there's various stages, and you and I we kind of experience all of them. But there is a new beginning. There's momentum, right?
Right.
It happens. We grieve daily.
Yes.
The grief lightens up a little, but you realize every day that you're still here.
Yes.
And so what am I going to do with the rest of my life?
Right.
And how do I also use the strength from my deceased spouse that they may have poured in you, and we can say that because we had those relationships, those type of relationships. That you draw strength. I draw strength even from my parents who are deceased. I draw that strength because I live a life that they may not have experienced.
Right.
I'm living in a time, in a year, with an African American president, that we've had, and I'm living in a time that they did not get to experience.
Right.
My sister, who I lost when she was 13, I draw from her a lot because I promised myself at a young age, 5. I was about 5 or 6 when I lost her.
Okay.
I promised myself that I would live my life, of course, for me, fulfilling my goals and my dreams, but I would not take my life for granted because there are people like her who did not get to live long.
Yes.
So I'm constantly trying to, I'm content. I'm not going to say I'm always moving forward, because I'm content. However, I know that there is a greater purpose for me and for my life. So I don't try to waste the time on mediocre things.
Right.
I love my family. I love my friends. I love learning new things, taking new adventures. I like simply trying a new restaurant.
Yes.
That's one of the things on my list is I have this whole long list of restaurants that are throughout Dallas, Fort Worth, that's in other states, other countries.
Okay.
And when I hear about them or read about them, I put it in my phone. I have the little, check boxes near there that I check them off as I go.
That's funny because I do the same thing.
New foods.
Yes.
I like fine food, good food.
Yes. Yes.
So that just experiencing those things, and I just encourage others. But I didn't want to share something with you. Did you have something to talk about the beginning?
No, I was just saying that's funny because I do the same thing. I write those down, especially when I hear or see someone had went somewhere, and I'll be like, oh, okay, let me write this down so I can see if I can try to travel there or eat there and see what it's like.
Right. So as I was saying that, like what this podcast is doing, right, and what we set out to do is encourage other people, and I want people to know that this is not just about widows.
Right.
Right. It's about two women who was living life like a lot of people who are listening to us, with a family, with a spouse, with children, with careers, with the house or whatever.
Right.
And unfortunately, we lost our spouse.
Right.
However, there are many, many parts to our lives that others can relate to, whether or not they lost someone or they're preparing for marriage, or maybe they're currently married and something we say is a light bulb, right? Of just being present or not taking the loved ones for granted, right? Or just having your independence even while you're married. And it doesn't mean shutting other people out. Right. It just means self-care, self-awareness, right?
Yes.
But I have to share something with you that a young lady, we're getting DMs, we're getting emails, we're getting texts from people all across the country. Yes. Who
watched our show or listened
right?
Exciting, right?
And it's exciting because sometimes you think, okay, this little show, we're just like rambling off and talking. You don't think that it's really touching people. But then you get this DM from people that tell you otherwise, right?
Okay.
And so this woman, and hopefully she will not mind me sharing it, but she said that she was sitting at work and she was listening to the podcast and she thought it was very powerful. And she thanked us for being vulnerable and transparent and sharing our story. She said she hasn't lost a spouse, but there are so many things that she can relate to. And she said that keep on teaching us.
Wow.
And that right there was like